Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Figma KIRITO figure from Sword Art Online. He is number 174. This is a reissue. This guy was originally released a little while back. I had not watched Sword Art at the time, so I didn't buy the figure. After having watched Sword Art and I saw that the Asuna figure was being reissued, I looked around and I found out this guy had also been reissued recently, so I finally picked him up. So now you get to see the review on the figure. I don't really want to argue about whether the show was good or not. I know some people have some really strong feelings about that. If you care about my opinion, which I assume you do at least a little bit since you're watching the video, I really enjoyed the show. I watched the English dub, and it didn't have barely any fan service, and it had a fun story and some cool action, so I liked it, and I think you should check it out. And it's not the kind of show that kids can't watch. At least I don't remember it being that way, so I think you'll probably enjoy it. Anyway, let's look at the figure. He stands just about 14 centimeters tall, and about 5.5 inches tall, a little bit taller maybe. And he looks almost exactly spot on for the show. If there's one thing Figma can do, it's get anime characters accurately made. They almost always look perfect, and this guy is really no exception. Excuse me. So he looks really good. We're going to get into the figure, but first let's talk about what he comes with. Of course, we have the Figma display stage. We almost always, I think always, get one of those. I can't think of a figure that didn't, but we always get this from Figma, so that's cool. And then we get always from Figma the baggie for our spare parts, but if you are a true import collector, you know the spare parts belong in the packaging and not in the baggie. So there's that. Then of course we have a tree of hands. So let's look at the hands right now. We have these open style pose hands. We have the sword gripping hands that are for straight, gripping the sword straight. Then we have the angled ones, so you can bend his wrist forward. So we have those for either side. And then we have fist hands for either side. So just all the stuff we need to pose him properly. We have the kind of smiling face, not completely smiling, but it's a little bit of a smile. And then we have the angry face, which is the one I will probably be posing him with the most. And then we have the kind of awkward or embarrassed face. And I will post photos of this guy at the end of the video so you can see what he looks like in action. And then we have the two swords, both of them very well detailed. You can see all of that nice sculpt work on the hilt. I suppose that's the hilt. Paintwork to go with it. A little bit of a smudge here, but that's probably not a regular thing, so that's okay. You can see the blade has a different color to it than the main part of the, or the edge of the blade has a different color than the main part, and it looks really nice. And it does fit in the scabbard just fine. We have the other sword also, again, very well detailed. It's kind of light, so the camera doesn't want to pick it up right now against that dark background, but it is really well detailed, well painted, and then we have the edge painted separately again, so that's very cool. And of course, what good are the swords if you can't put them on his back? You get this piece here. It goes on his back right through that hole. You're gonna have to play around with it a little bit to get in the right spot. You'll see in the photos. So that can go on his back to hold one sword, which is fine. But I've always thought two swords are better than one. So that can go on his back to hold both swords. And I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with that hole. I'm sure it's just not lined up. But you can peg that in to hold both swords. So that's pretty useful. And then, of course, what would the swords be without slash effects, which are very similar to the ones Link had, not quite as cleverly designed. They're a little bulky looking, but not bad. And I'm pretty sure this originally came out way before Link did, so no big deal. So that kind of gets a pressure fit in there, and that goes on the sword. Whether he can hold that or not, I don't know. That seems like it's going to be pretty heavy, but it's a cool effect. And you can see it's got some nice gradation going on here, and it's translucent. So that's pretty nice. And if you have one, you need the other. So we have this one, which goes on just the same way. It's a little bit lighter, so it's harder to see the gradation, but it is there and it is translucent. It does feel heavy, so I'm a little concerned about how he's going to be able to hold those. But it's nice that they are included. Alright, let's look at the actual figure. Paint job wise, I'm pretty pleased with it. All of the white lining on here, it's pretty darn good. It's not 100% perfect, but there's nothing that really stands out as being an error or being lazily done. So no big deal. I guess the biggest issue is that one right there on the top of the collar right here, which isn't that big of a deal. So that's alright by me. The rest is all pretty much black. We have some gray for his shirt. The belt buckle's painted. but the rest is, it's pretty monochromatic, so there wasn't much to screw up. Not that Figma usually does, but we don't even have to worry about it on this guy because it's pretty standard paintwork. The face is done well. I do think it looks like him, and I like, just as a character standpoint, I like that he has black eyes. At least this is his avatar. Okay, so I'll give you a quick rundown. If you're not familiar with the show, this is his in-game presence. His real name is Kirigaya Kazuto, and his name in the game is KIRITO, which is the character, which is this character, and that's what this is based on. So he has black eyes. I don't remember if he does in real life or not anymore, but either way, let me not go on a tangent. It's got black eyes, they have shading in them, they look good. That's what I was getting at. As far as articulation goes, it's fairly standard for Figma figures. If you have any, or if you've ever seen a review, then you know what I'm talking about, but I'll show you anyway. He's got the hinge in the neck, so it's got the swivel part where it pegs in. It's got the hinge here, and then it'll swivel where it pegs in down here also. The neck is not articulated on this figure. I don't think we really need that though. You should be able to pose his head just fine. Looking up, looking down, you can rotate it around or just swivel it. Whatever you want to do, you will be fine with that. You can see here the arm is connected. Hopefully you can see that. There's a ball peg where the arm connects to the torso, and then a hinge, a ball hinge, where the arm is actually connected to the shoulder joint. So that gives him his hinge, and then it will move around also. And we get our bicep swivel out of that as well. So you really can pose the arm however you want to. The elbows just have a single hinge, but you get better than 90 degrees, so that's pretty good. You can also get a little bit of a swivel out of that lower bicep as well. The hands, as you already saw, the hands have a hinge, and then they peg in so they rotate. As far as torso articulation goes, it looks like he doesn't have a mid-torso joint. I didn't examine him before, I just took him out of the package, but I don't think he has it. It looks like he's got the standard hips slash crotch slash lower torso joint, which is a three-way ball peg. So there's a ball peg going into the torso, which lets him move around above the waist. It should be enough. I do wish he had a second one in there, but it'll do. He's got a soft floating crotch piece here, so that won't get in the way of any of the articulation. That'll be fine. And then we have ball pegs for each hip. So we have that socket that lets the leg move around that ball peg, and then the thigh can actually move around the socket. So we get kind of like a double swivel and really good articulation. You can bring those legs all the way up if you want to. So that's pretty nice. For the knees, we just have a single hinge. You guys know, if you collect Figmas or watch my reviews, knees are not necessarily one of Figma's strong suits. They do tend to look a little awkward, but this one's not bad. It's definitely not one of the best. He doesn't have anything to hide that knee joint other than his straight black pants. So it looks okay from the front. From the side, you're definitely going to get that lump back there. Not much you can really do about that. So, it is what it is. I don't particularly care for that, but if you're buying a Figma, then you go into it knowing that that's going to be there. For the ankles, we have, well, let me just show you, because it's easier to show than to try to explain. We have this kind of joint, just like in the neck. It's a hinge. It swivels at both ends, so you get your ankle rocker out of that. And then, of course, the ankle can rotate around this. And on top of the ankle, if you didn't notice me taking it off, he's got a floating soft top of his boot, which means you can still pose the ankle and make it look good without hindering the, well, you can pose the ankle without hindering the sculpt, and it'll still look good. That's what I'm getting at. So it'll hide the joint pretty well, and you shouldn't have any trouble posing him. So if you are a fan of sword art, or if you just like decent figures, this is one you should probably look into. He's probably going to be pretty scarce pretty soon, because oh, I forgot to mention the coat. His coat is also articulated. Let me pull one of those out so you can see that. I forgot to mention that. So he's got basically just another one of those hinges in there. So you've got a single hinge and it pegs in on both ends, so that'll swivel. So you can move the coat around and make it look like it's flowing in the wind, or like he's dashing or jumping or something, and you'll be able to pose him just fine. So what I was saying is that he is a reissue. I don't know if they're going to do another one, and I'm pretty sure most places are sold out of the reissue already. So you're going to have to do some searching to find one unless they reissue it again. So just cross your fingers and hope you get one. It's a cool figure, cool show. I'm happy with it, and I think you will be too. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out Big Bad Toy Store for figures like this, though I think they're already sold out, but it can't hurt to take a look. but maybe you'll get the reissue next time around. So check them out for that, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.